lived in a bungalow on the far side of the town cut. This channel through the islets connected St. George's with the Atlantic on the seaward side of the Narrows. Tom had run into Peter shortly after the young Briton had brought alongside his first nuclear command, HM Nuclear Submarine Rugged. The Bermudan was a bachelor, coming and going as he pleased, and sometimes disappearing for months, marine surveying. He was a good friend to the newly arrived submarine captain and his wardroom. Both men got on well together, in spite of the difference in their ages. Tom Hilliard stood up. His shadow slanted across the drowsy submariner who had started to fish by lazily dangling a lump of bread on a jagged hook before the contemptuous eyes of a goggling rock cod. Peter looked up and saw Tom preparing his fishing spear, a three-pronged and barbed affair. "You'll never get anything with that, Tom," laughed Peter. Peter saw Tom jerk his arm in a sudden movement. The spear clove the water. A circular stain welled to the surface. Tom hauled in his line carefully, and then a pink stickle-backed rock cod flopped onto the deck, struggling on the jagged barbs. There was a hard light in Tom's eyes as he stared down at Peter. "Not bad, eh?" Tom smiled with his mouth only. His face creased with pleasure, but his eyes remained strikingly cold and hard, with the faraway blueness so typical of the crofters from the Western Isles. "Wretched fish," Peter replied. "It must be pretty difficult to allow a correct aim-off, Tom. But you only got a rock cod." "The captain, he sometimes get a barracuda," a voice crooned behind Peter. Joseph, one of the crew, had joined them from the forehatch, and he was grinning as he held his arms wide. "Yes, sir. Big as this they are." Peter smiled. It was the same the whole world over. "I'd like to see you get one, Tom. Impossible, I'd have thought." "It's a matter of practice. I used to stand on the bottom of a gangway at night, and the barracuda would come up to the light. I'd spear 'em as they flashed past." "Fastest fish in the world, aren't they?" "Yes, and one of the most dangerous. Long and narrow like a razor. They're 6 feet long sometimes. The fastest fish in the sea, they say. They'll attack you if they get the chance." Peter grunted. He wanted a swim. "Any out here on the reefs?" The water was like crystal. Below them the underwater gardens extended in a profusion of pastel colours. Branching coral ferns waved lazily, their fronds a filigree of delicate tracery, the purples of the deeps contrasting vividly with the yellows and greens, the pinks, the reds, and the mauves of this coral underworld. "No, Peter, they stick to the deeper waters of the Sound and the dockyard area." "In that case I'll have a dip," Peter replied. He stood poised for a moment on the gunwale, then dived cleanly into the water. It was another world below the surface. A pity he couldn't study this coral through the periscope of his submarine. He rolled over on his side, and he saw the surface undulating above him, just as it looked through the periscope before the lens cleared on breaking surface. He expelled air through his mouth, and he watched the bubbles go streaming upwards. He was overwhelmed with happiness as once again he realized his good fortune. To be given command of one of Britain's first nuclear submarines was an honour in itself, but to have the luck of being sent to this station was too good to be true. He porpoised to the surface, saw Tom grinning down at him, and took another deep breath. Peter waved and dived again, down to the wonders of this coral world. Yes, he was proud of being recalled to duty from ashore, where he was working laboriously on a Russian interpreter's course. Admiralty had given him little time for decision, but he was glad now that he had accepted. He had been informed of the troubles in the West Indies, but how the nuclear submarine Rugged was going to be used he had yet to discover. "When Rugged's worked up, then we'll tell you what we want you for," the director of operations had said. "Well, I've finished my program," Peter mused, "so they'll have to do something with me soon." He swooped downwards, marvelling at the beauties of the coral. He glimpsed shoals of sergeant majors, green and black minnows, and several angelfish, ethereal in their heavenly blue.